April 19th, 2025, Las Vegas, Nevada, WrestleMania 41. Jey Uso wins the World Heavyweight Championship. 65,000 people inside Allegiant Stadium come apart at the seams. His brother is in the ring with him. He clutches his arm, and he cannot breathe.
Day one-ish!
Hold that image, because in that moment, Jey Uso had everything he had been working toward since he was a 20-year-old unloading furniture trucks in Pensacola, Florida. 20 years chasing that. And finally, he had it all. The championship, the spotlight, the validation, proof that he could stand on his own, that he didn't need anyone to hand it to him. And that's what makes what happened next so fascinating. Because after the confetti settled, after the music played, after the tears dried, Jey Uso ended up exactly where he started, standing beside his brother, wearing the same colors, playing the same role, as if none of it had ever happened. Every night, the music hit, the lights changed. Jey Uso walked through the curtain, and for a few minutes, the noise of the crowd made him feel invincible. But it never lasts. Eventually, the music stops, and that is where this story begins. His father tried to warn him. Rikishi had spent years watching the wrestling business destroy people he loved, including himself. Unsuccessful gimmicks in regional territories. His sons growing up in Pensacola without him, in hand-me-down clothes, on unpredictable money. By the time the Rikishi character became a success, the twins had already watched their father come home exhausted and battered for years. They had already learned what the business costs. So when Jimmy and Jay were old enough, Rikishi pointed them toward football. There were already enough Anoa'i names in wrestling, he said, and even if they ever did enter the industry, they would receive no favoritism and would start at the absolute bottom. They listened. Jay played linebacker for the University of West Alabama from 2003 to 2005. The coach called him a player to watch. Then academic ineligibility ended his season. The NFL trajectory stalled, and Joshua Fatu ended up in the workforce, physically moving office furniture alongside his brother Jonathan and their cousin Joe Anoa'i, the man the world would eventually know as Roman Reigns. 6 a.m. starts, loading docks. The exhaustion of manual labor that has no crowd at the end of it, no music, no moment. He simply wanted the end of a shift. He just wanted to go home. Then his uncle came for him. Edward Fatu, known to wrestling audiences as Umaga, pulled up to a bar in Pensacola one evening where the brothers were unwinding after work and gave them the speech that has since become legend. He was driving to Houston that night. He was going to get them into the wrestling business.
I just feel like a big hand just like slapped my shoulder. Boom. And I turned around like it's my uncle, like just pissed off, right? He's just standing between us cutting this damn realest promo ever. I could just tell he was hella mad. He was just laying in on us. So it's just, y'all MF is getting fat. Y'all over here wasting me. Y'all over here ain't doing shit. Y'all want to come make a good living or what? Because this is the last time I'm ever coming back to Pensacola.
Jay kissed his future wife goodbye and got in the car. The drive took 10 hours. They arrived in Houston and began training at the Wild Samoan Training Center under the guidance of the man who had dragged him there. They would spend years in developmental before they would earn their spot. December 4th, 2009. On that exact day on which Joshua and Jonathan signed their main roster contracts with World Wrestling Entertainment, the day the dream technically became real, Edward Fatu, Umaga, took his last breath. He was 36 years old. The man that forced him out of his comfort zone and into his destiny never lived to see him set foot in a WWE ring on national television. Never saw him win a tag championship. Never saw him main event a WrestleMania. That 10-hour drive is what stays with me. What those two men must have talked about in the dark. What Umaga was imagining when he went and pulled his nephews from that bar. And most importantly, what it means to carry that. To have your entire career initiated by a man whose death falls on the same calendar date your new life began. Umaga translates to the end in Samoan. Historically, it refers to the final, most agonizing portion of the traditional tattooing process. The endurance test that hardened you, the part that separated those who could continue from those who couldn't. In late 2022, Joshua completed an expansive traditional Samoan tattoo on his left calf in tribute to his uncle. Hundreds of hours under the needle. His family's names and losses pressed permanently into his skin. He is a man who carries grief, literally, inscribed on his body, pressing against him from the inside every time the music starts. May 24th, 2010. Jimmy and Jey Fatu debuted on the main WWE roster, the Usos, attacking the Hart Dynasty on Raw. A tag team. Two halves of a single professional identity, built for an industry that had always made room for Anoa'i men in pairs. For 6 years, they were exactly that. Athletic, synchronized, credible in the way that takes years to build and a single decisive reinvention to complete. In 2016, after losing in 28 seconds to American Alpha in a tournament semifinal, they turned heel. They shed the face paint, adopted a harder edge, became the thing the business had been waiting for them to become. Their 5th SmackDown Tag Team Championship reign lasted 622 days, the longest male tag reign in WWE history. What made them historically exceptional was a synchronicity you cannot manufacture. You can train tag team psychology. You can rehearse timing until you run it in your sleep. You cannot replicate what the Usos had, which was the coordination of two people who have been finishing each other's sentences since before they could speak. In their peak years, they were producing matches that felt less like choreography and more like two musicians who had been playing together so long they could anticipate every note before it arrived. Jey spent 11 years, from his debut to the summer of 2021, as one half of a unit so complete that his individual identity was genuinely optional. He said so himself in 2024, after the world title and the WrestleMania main event and all of it. "I literally thought we were going to be a tag team forever. We were going to be the best tag team in WWE." He meant it. It was an accurate description of what he had been and what he expected to remain. The honest professional verdict on those 11 years? He was very good at something the industry values less than it claims to. WWE never cared about the tag team division. Tag team wrestling is the part of the card that gets called the future when the performers are young and the foundation when they are experienced. And neither label means what it sounds like it means. They mean, this is not the top. This is not where the money lives. This is where you stay until you are needed for something else, or until the industry decides it is finished with you. 11 years. Then Jimmy's knee went in April 2020, and the industry needed him for something else. The world did not know it yet. Jey probably did not know it yet either. But his decades of struggle was finally coming due. August 2020. His cousin came home. Roman Reigns, the tribal chief. A character returning to claim what the industry had spent 8 years failing to manufacture as fiction and finally allowed to simply be fact. The character needed a sacrifice. Jimmy was unavailable, but Jey was there. That is the whole origin, an injury, an available body, a casting decision made by default. Everything that followed, the Bloodline, the YEET era, the Rumble win, the 51 days as champion, is the industry's long, expensive attempt to make that accident look like a plan. April 2020. WrestleMania 36. Tampa, Florida. The building is empty. No crowd. No noise except the kind piped in through speakers. Professional wrestling performed in a performance center for nobody. Jimmy Uso tears his knee. He goes home. His brother stays. That is the whole story. There are two Uso twins. But Jimmy has always been the one who carries a microphone with authority. The one who sets the tone in promos, who reads a crowd and tells it what it needs to hear. The talker. Jey has always been the reactor. The one who communicates through expression rather than declaration. The one whose best work happens in response to something or someone. When Roman Reigns came home in August 2020 with his new character and his new story, he needed a family member to break. The booking room did not sit down and weigh its options, because one twin was available. So the decision was the default. And lucky for them, because the prop turned out to be extraordinary. Make no mistake about that. What Jey brought to the Bloodline, the precision of his suffering, the way he could register coercion and grief and loyalty in a single expression, was genuine and rare. The Sami Zayn arc, the I Quit match, the Civil War, all of it was cinema. But none of it answers the question the industry has never asked out loud. What does the Bloodline story look like? if Jimmy Uso does not tear his knee in an empty arena in Tampa, Florida in April 2020? Nobody knows. Nobody has tried to find out. The industry presents the last 5 years as inevitable. Of course it was supposed to be Jey. Look at what Jey did with it. But inevitable is not the same as chosen. What followed across the next 3 years was some of the finest reactive character work in WWE's recent history. The Clash of Champions subjugation, the Hell in a Cell I Quit match, where he did not quit for himself, but submitted when Roman choked his brother at ringside because the belt was not worth what it was costing the person he loved. The gaslit enforcer, the reluctant tormentor, the brother who finally broke. The Sami Zayn arc, the Civil War, the Money in the Bank pinfall, the honest accounting of those years runs in 2 parts. The performance was real. The emotional precision Joshua brought to the Bloodline era, the ability to register Roman's cruelty in real time, to make the audience feel the weight of what was being done to him through expression and body language and the texture of his suffering, was a genuine and rare form of excellence. The Sami Zayn arc elevated this to a register that weekly television rarely sustains. Jey's hatred of Sami was not cartoon villainy. It was the fury of a man watching an outsider receive the warmth and acceptance that the family had conditioned him to believe he had to earn through suffering. Every look he shot Sami in those backstage segments was a full paragraph of character information delivered in a single frame. Every significant moment of those years was Roman's story. Jey was the instrument through which the audience measured Roman's power. His pain mattered because Roman's dominance mattered. His rebellion mattered because Roman's grip had been absolute. Remove Roman and the architecture collapses. Remove Jey and Roman finds a different prop. This is not a diminishment. It is an accurate description of what good art requires, and what the Bloodline demanded from him. It is also the distinction the industry failed to make at Money in the Bank 2023, when Jey pinned Roman for the first time in 3 years, and the arena came apart. The industry looked at that reaction and asked, can we replicate this feeling? The question it should have asked was, is Jey Uso the source of this heat, or is he the container the heat has been poured into? The industry did not make this distinction. Jey Uso's career is the distinction made visible. The term the internet wrestling community settled on was Yeet Merchant, crueler than it looks. What it names isn't a failure of talent. It names the precise moment a complex, emotionally rich human being gets simplified into a product, the transaction by which depth gets traded for reach, by which the multi-layered right-hand man becomes the interactive party mascot, by which a man's identity gets reduced until it can be printed on a t-shirt and sold in the daily top 10 for 106 consecutive days. He became the top merchandise seller in WWE. His numbers in October 2024 exceeded the combined merch sales of CM Punk and Roman Reigns. He has 2 million Instagram followers. Roman Reigns has 11 million. The arena knows his name. The world does not. The match quality record tells its own story. His best work came inside the Bloodline, on Roman's architecture, in a context built to support him. What came after was a performer asked to replicate that output alone, and the output declining on schedule. Part of that is context. Part of it is the moveset. Jey Uso's offensive arsenal, cataloged honestly, is brief. Super kick, Uso splash, super kick. In tag team wrestling that is survivable, your partner carries half the load. The structure conceals the gaps. In a 30-minute singles main event, the gaps are visible to everyone. The botches compound it, not occasional errors, a pattern. Mistimed spots, blown sequences, the kind of in-ring miscommunication that drew visible frustration from opponents on camera. CM Punk at Saturday night's main event in November 2025 was caught calling spots with the urgency of a man trying to stop something from falling apart. It didn't fully fall apart, but you could see every bolt. Triple H asked publicly to defend the booking. Is he the most technical guy? No. Is he the greatest performer in ring? No. The chief content officer of WWE, defending his world champion, opened with 2 concessions. That is the record. There is a framework for understanding this. Good art comes from taking an authentic part of yourself and fashioning something out of it. Bad art is a surface-level imitation of something else, without the human core that made the original worth imitating. Run this against the Bloodline years, Jey performing the precise psychological condition of someone being slowly erased by a person he loves, from material so authentic, it almost felt like a violation to observe it. Then run it against what came after, a slogan, a beautiful, annoying, infectious, crowd-generated slogan, but a slogan. Roman's arc is the story of bad art discovering a human core and becoming real. Jey's arc is the story of good art having its human core extracted and becoming product. They are the same story running in opposite directions, and together they form the most precise, unintentional diagnosis of how this company operates that WWE has produced in a decade. The t-shirt was the ceiling. The entrance was the product. What happened after the entrance? The matches, the title reign, the 51 days, the correction belongs to a different chapter. The 9-minute walk through the crowd, the arm waves, the synchronized chanting, the adrenaline of 40,000 people at maximum volume before a single move has been thrown was depleting him so completely that he was sometimes visibly gasping before the opening bell. Triple H documented this on camera in the weeks before the 2025 Royal Rumble, watching footage back, seeing the problem. His own panic response, triggered by the scale of the moment, was burning his stamina in the entrance. The thing the company was selling as its greatest commercial asset was extracting the match from his body before it started. In episode 4 of WWE Unreal, Jey Uso sat in front of a camera and said 6 words, "I never truly believed in myself." He wasn't exposing a hidden wound. He was naming the one that had always been there. Consider WrestleMania 40, April 2024, Philadelphia. Jey Uso versus Jimmy Uso, brother versus brother. 2 years of build-up, the biggest stage in the business. Jimmy pitched a squash, hit the finishers, get out, acknowledge the gap between what the story promised and what 11 minutes could deliver. WWE declined. Instead, what we got was 11 minutes of super kicks. Jimmy's daughter in the front row, looking at her
his brother. He wanted Jimmy to get away from the...
Here is what that match could not resolve. Jimmy could not win without the story conceding that Jey had paid for something that was never really his to begin with. Jey could not win without the story conceding that his prominence was built, in part, on his brother's misfortune. Either result required honesty. The industry chose 11 minutes instead. Jey said it himself, before the Rumble, before the title, before any of it.
And I was never supposed to be like the top guy. They chose me. It was Mark Henry just said that on their podcast, man, that people chose Jey.
He meant the crowd chose him. Read it again, and it is also a description of August 2020. A booking room reaching for whoever was available, and finding that whoever was available was good enough. Good enough for 5 years. For a Royal Rumble win, a world title, a WrestleMania main event, and then one Uso standing beside the other, both standing guard for their cousin. The story ended exactly where it began, as if history had corrected a mistake. In every dynasty, there is a version of this story. The second son who is loyal and talented and beloved, who serves the family well across decades, who is asked one day to be something the family never prepared him to be, and who, briefly, persuades himself and everyone watching that he can be it. But the throne does not care about loyalty. It does not reward service. It does not soften for the people who spend years standing beside it. It cares about legitimacy, and legitimacy is rarely earned. Most of the time, it is inherited. The heir receives it automatically. The second son spends his life trying to prove he deserves it. Jey Uso is not a failure. He is one of the most decorated tag team performers professional wrestling has produced. He is the emotional centerpiece of the best WWE storyline in a decade. He was, inside the Bloodline, an instrument of extraordinary precision, capable of registering grief and loyalty and rage and love in ways that sustained a 3-year narrative through the pandemic, through the return of audiences, through the gradual unraveling of the family he was born into. None of that required him to be the heir. The mistake, and it was a mistake, made by the machine that decided commercial heat was the same as championship credibility, was placing the crown on the head of the man who had spent 3 years making the crown mean something. He made Roman's power feel devastating. He made the audience love the tribal chief's story by being the person that story most visibly cost. And when the machine needed a world champion, and the air was absent, it looked at the man who had made the crown mean something and thought, he can wear it, but the crown knows the difference. It always does. I want to take you to Lyon for a moment. The French crowd, before Jey Uso arrives in that arena, has been doing the arm gesture to recorded music in the concourse. Someone filmed it. You can find it online. 11,000 people before the show has started, before he's anywhere near the building, practicing the entrance without him. The gesture seeking the person it belongs to. That footage says something I keep returning to. The crowd built something real. The ceremony was real, but the ceremony could run without its centerpiece, which is either a testament to how powerful the entrance had become, or evidence that the entrance, by that point, had nothing to do with the performer. That brings us to present. Roman came back. Of course he did. And the moment he did, everything reoriented around him. The titles, the family, the camera. Because some stories are not abandoned. They merely pause until their protagonist returns. Jey and Jimmy Uso are the WWE World Tag Team Champions, back inside the Bloodline orbit. Back in the role the family template always had waiting for them. The experiment is over. The subject has been returned to inventory. The panic attacks still happen. The arm still clutches. The breath still catches. December 4th still comes around every year, the day the dream became real, and the man who made it possible died. Jey still carries that. He will always carry that. The crowd will still do the yeet. The music will still hit. The building will still rise. And for 90 seconds, walking through that curtain, it will feel like it always felt, like he is the most loved man in the building. Then the music stops, the bell rings, and Jey Uso stands in the middle of the ring, back in the tag team, back in the orbit, carrying grief on his calf in a world title reign that lasted 51 days as a cruel reminder of what he almost was and what he always supposed to be.
I wish everyone could experience what we get to experience back there, like walking through these curtains. I'm very, very blessed, man. I stay humble in front of y'all. I love what I do. I don't ever take this for granted. Love y'all. One time for the one time. 4 letters.
If you enjoyed the video, make sure to check out the story that made Jey Uso matter. That one is on screen right now. And if you are new here, this is what we do. If that is something you want more of, subscribe. It genuinely helps. Thanks for watching.